All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number 166, I think. And today, uh, something really cool and interesting happened. For anyone that doesn't know, today was, I think they just call it Renegade Con or something like that. Basically, the company, the company that makes the Essence 20 system, Renegade Game Studios, they have this thing like once or twice a year. I can't remember, but they call it Renegade Con. And it's basically just they do a live stream and they announce new products. Like it's really simple. It's nothing near a convention. It's just what they like to call it. However, today was Renegade Con. They announced a few things. Most of the things that they announced were new board games and expansions to the board games that they already have, board and card games. There was a lot of deck building announcement stuff, which is perfectly fine. Again, I own the Power Rangers deck building game. I think it's super cool. But because I live in a basement and I have no physical friends, I can't play board games. It's one of the reasons I focus on tabletop RPGs, because I can play those on the internet. So that stuff was okay. It didn't blow my mind, but it's like, okay, whatever. However, they did announce 3 new RPG products. One of them is typical. There's a new source book coming out for the My Little Pony RPG. I own the My Little Pony RPG. I did an in-depth review of it on here. The new book, before I say the wrong thing, where'd it go? Where'd it go? Of course they can't have the thing that I want to see on the front page. There we go. Okay, so it's called My Little Pony Role-Playing Game Knights of Canterlot Sourcebook. And it is exactly what it sounds like. It is a source book for the My Little Pony game that gives you kind of a more fantasy flair. If you watched my in-depth review or you're familiar with the My Little Pony RPG, My Little Pony in and of itself is not your traditional tabletop RPG. It is very, I guess, relationship focused. And because of that, like, there are rules for combat, but they're very limited. It almost has a feeling of like baby's first tabletop RPG, because compared to like Power Rangers or Transformers, it is a very simplistic version of the Essence 20 system, which is perfectly fine. And they do have optional rules in there to make it a little bit more complex. Knights of Canterlot, as far as I can tell, is going to add a little bit more complexity to the game, but it's going to be kind of high fantasy themed. So the current My Little Pony is fantasy-esque. It's fantasy adjacent. There's a lot of fantasy themes in there, but it's much more relationship focused. This is going to put a little bit more of an emphasis on that kind of fantasy adventuring type thing, which technically is a new thing for Essence 20 in general. The 3 other Essence 20 games are all modern, set in kind of the modern world. I mean, Power Rangers is set in the present day. G.I. Joe, same thing. And Transformers is kind of a sci-fi modern, because it's technically futuristic technology, but they're doing it in the real world. And so having kind of a high fantasy version of Essence 20 might be kind of interesting. As far as like actual content in there, they mention new let's try this again. New influences, 40 new spells. That is something that's unique to the My Little Pony RPG, is they did introduce a spellcasting system. It's a very limited spellcasting system. And adding 40 new spells, I think that effectively at least doubles the number of spells that exist for the My Little Pony RPG. And then, some new I'm going to try this one more time. Some new perks, magical items and artifacts, and then some new threats to deal with. So it's exactly what you would expect of it. It's going to come out in October, and just like every other one of the RPG books, you buy the physical copy as a pre-order, and you get the PDF for free when the PDF is available. Sometimes that's before it comes out. Sometimes it's when it actually comes out. Enough said. So if I have money at that point, because money's getting tighter and tighter, folks, I'm probably going to pick it up. The hardcover, it's $35 for the hardcover, so it's not the most expensive book I've ever seen. Shipping makes that more expensive, but whatever. But that's not the thing that kind of blew my mind. There were two other tabletop RPG themed books that they announced, and they are the Herbalist's Primer and the Geologist's Primer. Well, what are these things, and what game system are they for? None. They're not for a game system. I'm just going to read the Herbalist Primer description, and we'll kind of go from there. So, an illustrated guide to magical plants. Herbalist's Primer is a system-agnostic illustrated guide to real-world magical plants. Inspired by the 19th century herbalists and the millennia of folklore, myths, and legends, it brings a wealth of easily accessible, organized information straight to your gaming table. From screaming mandragoras to shape-shifting deadly nightshade to hawthorns holding portals to the Fey realm, the world of plant folklore is full of fascinating stories, magical rituals, and simple spells that are quite unbreakable. Every entry lists, if possible, their culinary, medicinal, magical, and poisonous properties. Each entry includes basic botanical information, a handy scale reference, commonly used names, and a short description, so there's no need to read the whole thing if you're just browsing for inspiration. And then they have a feature section. What this literally is somebody has gone and looked at folklore and myths and snake oil salesmen and everything in between to come up with a list of magical uses for plants, which is extremely common in fantasy settings in general, whether it is high fantasy, low fantasy, dark fantasy, grim fantasy, horror fantasy, whatever. They always have somebody that's mixing potions or creating poultices to help you or anything like that. Like herbology in general is a major theme, to the point where in something like the Harry Potter series, they have an entire class that they have to learn about magical plants and herbology. So the fact that somebody has finally gone and done something like this, first of all, to me it feels stupid that this didn't exist before. Like, seriously, this is such a great idea. And something that literally any fantasy-based, or not even fantasy-based, you can do it modern, as long as there's kind of a magical, mythical aspect to your tabletop RPG. This is something that could be useful. It's not going to give you like stat blocks or anything like that, because it's not made for a particular system. It's just going to, talk about how these plants have been viewed in history, whether that's through myths and legends, whether that's through people actually selling them and claiming that they could do that, whether that's through the myriad of different religions that believe that plants have certain properties and things like that. I don't know specifics. I haven't read the book, but I find it fascinating. And this is one of the books. It's expensive. It's $60. So as far as a Renegade book goes, this is probably the most expensive book I will purchase from them. Because most of their tabletop books generally only are about like $55. And that's for like core books and stuff like that are $55. So this being a $60 book, it's a bit of an investment, but it just seems like such an interesting thing, especially if, again, for me as a game master, I've said this before, I have been blessed with really, really creative and intelligent players. And because of that, I constantly have players going, hey, can I do something like this? Or can I try this or do this? And my response is always going to be, let me think about it to see if there's a way for me to do it without it breaking the game or something. And my goal is always to say yes, and here's how it's going to work in the game. So having something like this can mean that it's like, well, oh, damn it. You know, one of the players got poisoned. We have nobody that can cure poison. Well, we have a ranger, though. Okay, well, what's the ranger going to do? Well, I can... forest is my favorite, or swamp is my favorite terrain. Can I find a plant? Can I roll like a survival check to find a plant that I know tends to counteract poisons? You can go, yeah, sure. Roll. Oh, you rolled high? Sure, you found a plant. But that's kind of boring. With something like this Herbalist Primer, you can kind of flip through it and go, hey, this has antidotal effects to it, and go, well, you actually find 3 different plants. You can just pick 3 plants at random from this book, or 2 plants at random from this book and 1 real plant. You know, and these are the things that you find, and depending on how high they roll, you tell them facts about each plant, and you can just kind of get a lot of those facts from this book, the facts from this book. And that can make things significantly more interesting, because just sitting there going, yes, I roll a survival check, I find the plant, hooray, everything's done, is boring. But going, okay, roll me a survival check, and then depending on the number that they roll, they will find a number of different plants. Maybe rolling higher means you narrow it down to just 2 plants. Maybe rolling lower, you find a wide variety of plants. And then you can have them go, okay, well, these are the different plants that you go. You can roll a history check to see what you remember. You can roll a medicine check to see if these, and let other people roll to. And now it's turned from, oh, I make a single roll and yay, the day is saved, to, wow, this has turned into a skills challenge. This has turned into something interesting. And again, depending on what they roll, you can go, well, the only thing you know about this plant is it's green. And green is healthy, right? That's what we know. And then if they do pick the wrong plant, because either they didn't find out enough about the plant, so they actively chose the wrong plant, then you can come up with other things. Like maybe the plant that they chose has no magical effect, but it's used in cooking a lot. Like maybe they just found like kale, like magical kale. And so when they, try and give it to them, like they brew it into a potion, they have it drinking, the only thing that happens is like, wow, it tastes extremely bitter, and you can swear that there's dirt in there. Because for those of you that don't know, kale tastes like bitter dirt. So yeah, I find this fascinating, and this, to me, depending on how good the book is, again, I don't know if this is going to be a good book, a bad book, anything like that. It could be incredibly half-assed and not worth the $60 price tag. But if it does what it says on the tin, this could be an incredible resource for game masters in general. The same thing can be said about this Geologist Primer. Basically the same thing, but instead of plants, it's minerals. So yeah, like here, I'll read the first, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but introducing the Geologist's Primer, a system-agnostic illustrated guide to real-world crystals, minerals, and metals, inspired by 19th century field guides and the millennia of folklore, myths, and legends, brings a wealth of easily accessible, organized information straight to your gaming table. So again, you have a player that maybe you have an artificer and like, well, I want to do this, or I want to do something like that. I want to, enchant this weapon so that it deals fire damage. Okay. Well, you can go, okay, then make me a tinkering check. Okay, you rolled high enough. Now it does fire damage. Cool. Or you can go, well, it's well known that this particular material has a strong association with fire. So if you find this material, you can use that to basically forge it into the weapon to give it fire damage. And then Yeah, some like from Demon Binding Agate. I don't know. Agate. I've seen it a million times and I've never heard it pronounced. I don't think it's Agate. To Immortal Zircon. Yeah, I mean, like, it's like, well, I want this sword to be able to hurt demons. Okay, well, then you need to find an agate that's in this thing, and hopefully they'll have a little bit of information about it. You can use that to make it something interesting instead of, okay, roll a die, hooray, you win. That's boring. Stuff like this could be really, really fun, especially if you have characters that want to do weapon customizing and stuff like that. If you're playing one of the Essence 20 Giga games, part of the Essence 20 system is the fact that weapons and equipment are completely customizable. They're designed to be. Having something like the Geologist's Primer can make customizing the weapons a lot of fun. Because, I mean, let's go the Power Rangers route. Because with, I guess it could be anything, but I'm going to go Power Rangers because I like Power Rangers. Let's go the Power Rangers route. The Rangers have discovered that their weapons need a little bit more oomph because they've come up with a creature who's resistant to their weapons or something like that. And so, in true Power Rangers fashion, they each are given a separate quest that they have to go to, a la like the Zeo Crystal quest, where they go, well, you know, you are going to go, you know, you can do your best Zordon impression, go, Rangers, you are going to go to Red Ranger, you are going to go to this part of a volcanic mountain. You are going to look for volcanic obsidian. We will use that or whatever. Like, and then again, you still make the same rolls and everything, but now there's a purpose to it, and it feels more real. It feels more interesting. Also, for lore hounds and stuff like that, this stuff is going to be gold because it's going to give actual real information. And then it's also going to give made-up snake oil salesman nonsense. And then myth and legend stuff. Like, this is going to be amazing. So, yeah. Apparently, they're both coming out in November. There's nothing here that mentions anything about a PDF version of them. So, it's possible that these will be physical copy only. Which, if that's true, I will be slightly upset. But these books, I think, are going to be interesting enough that I need to get them, even if they're physical. So, yeah, I mean, it looks so cool. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about that because, again, I haven't heard of a company doing that. First of all, most companies are going to make stuff to support their other products. Like anything that Wizards of the Coast pushes out is going to be compatible with D&D. Or somehow related to D&D, and that's actually a smart business move, because it allows effectively for cross promotion. So if one of your products gets big, all the rest of your products will also see increases in sales simply because they all reference each other. So I'm not knocking anyone for doing that, but as far as creating just a system agnostic guide to herbs and minerals, I haven't heard of a company doing that. And I think it's really freaking amazing and cool. And I'm super excited about it. So, yeah, I saw it and I immediately was intrigued. And I thought you guys might be interested too. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments down below. Like I said, money is super tight right now. We've had some financial stuff going on with the house and other stuff that I'm not going to talk about, but it all costs money. And money is the thing that I don't have. I'm on extremely fixed income because not only do I get paid jack shit in disability, but the government gets mad if I make any additional money. Like, fun fact, when I published The Dragon Knight, it was fairly successful. Over the first few months that it existed, I think I made, I don't know, a couple $100 over 6 months to a year when it first existed. It still makes a very, very tiny amount of money now, but a lot of the newness of it is worn off. If I get like $10 a month off of people purchasing that, that's a good month. But when you're talking about like over 6 months making like $400, that's really not a lot of money. Like, I couldn't get groceries off of that, much less like it being impressive. And oh boy, did the government get mad at me. Because they're like, wait a minute, you're earning royalties? Because it's called royalties, what I get paid for that. That's what DM's Guild pays me. They're called royalties. So I go, yeah, I get royalties. They're royalties. Royalties are for rich people. We're going to take away everything. I'm like, yeah, my royalties are like $70 a month. Oh, yeah. Well, still, how are you able to get royalty? Because I spent like a month and a half writing a 10-page document. No, that is never going to turn into a real job for me, folks. If all I can do is write 10 pages in a month and a half, congratulations, I'm fired. So, enough of me ranting about money and disability. That being said, if enough people are interested in it, I don't like. As long as I have the money, I'm definitely getting at least the herbalism one. I want the geologist one too. But if you guys are really interested, maybe I'll do like an in-depth review or something for them. I still have to do my GI. I have the GI Joe equipment book. I've had it for weeks, maybe a month now. Just have not had the ability, the health really, to do my in-depth review on that. But I have that book. I haven't even opened it, to be perfectly honest. I have both the physical and the digital already. Haven't opened either of them yet because I've just been so sick and focusing on my Essential Essence 20 series. So anyway, I thought this was massively cool. I hope you guys are excited too. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. And another thing, if another company has done something like this, let me know about that too. Because again, this sounds like such an awesome idea. I don't know why it hasn't been done before. And if it has been done before, why didn't it catch on? So anyway, it's all for me today. I will see you guys in the next time. All right? Bye-bye.